live.
Hey, Marnie.
Jason, this is the show I've been waiting for.
KHOP88 is on the air. We are joined by several, not all, but almost all of the 1988 class of the Hopkins High School hockey team. You guys, thanks for showing up for this.
Thanks for having us.
Right, we're coast to coast here tonight, so I'm just going to go around and we're going to have everybody sort of say where they are, say what they're doing. You can maybe talk about whether you have any kids playing hockey. And then if you could just answer the question of what was the best thing about playing hockey in high school for Hopkins, a great memory you had. We'll start with Rick Marker joining us from New Jersey. Rick, how's it going?
Just curious, why was I the starter for this conversation?
You're in the top corner.
Out in East Coast?
Yeah, yes, that we're going from East.
Always start with the goalies. No,
right.
Thank you again for having us, you guys. I'm in Oakland, New Jersey, about 23 miles northeast of, or actually northwest of New York City. And I work for Warner Brothers Domestic Television. I sell TV shows. And my kids, my older daughter just started her freshman year at Alabama. And my youngest is 13, 8th grade, and she's softball and basketball.
Do you, I want to make sure we get this in too. When was the last time you put a pair of skates on, Rick?
Well, I had foot surgery in October, so I had to shut it down from October to now. I'm hoping to play again at the end of February, but I played early October. I play on a Tuesday night league, so.
Excellent.
It's great, except for Thanksgiving when the kids come home, then it gets a little tough.
All right. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Do you have something else? I want to derail you because once you get going, it's.
I know, it's tough. I found that out myself.
Jovan Sloan.
Hey, how you doing, Jason?
Hey, great. Where are you?
I'm in
on the rink.
I'm on the rink in Southwest Minneapolis, so I didn't leave too far from the Hopkins area. Stuck around here, played hockey probably up until about 8 years ago, and then a nagging hip injury kind of got me to get off skates and add a few pounds around the midsection. So trying to avoid adding to that belt line and staying in shape. Outside of that, not much going on. Chasing kids around high school right now. So I've got a junior and a sophomore, and neither
Fantastic.
They both played hockey 1 year and quit. So I'm guessing that's because I coached them. So probably drove them off the rink myself.
Have you been on the lake? Where are you? Are you closer to Calhoun or Harriet? Have you been on any of the lakes?
Just south of Harriet. We were walking around the other day. It was kind of cool to see some of the paths and some of the skating rinks that people have put on the lakes just to get people out and about with COVID. So it's fun to see the lakes getting used for old time hockey, if you would call it that. Yeah. I did play some 4-man outdoor in Edina for quite a few years, and that's brought back memories of growing up with being a kid down at the park for hours on end.
That's fantastic. Coming to us from a place where there are no outdoor hockey rinks ever, Tony Siruno. Tony, how are you?
Doing good. Hey, say hi to everybody. I've been living here in Los Angeles like almost 30 years. I did continue playing hockey, and I stopped playing hockey about like the end of 2018. Too many injuries, work was getting pretty crazy, and just the kids' schooling just took up a lot of time. So, but from time to time, I'll still go out to the rink and check out my friends playing hockey. So it's still fun. Still trying to stay close to the game.
Yeah. Eric Haugen also joining us from the East Coast.
It's great to see everybody. I mean, I haven't seen, I think, most of you guys since probably the 20-year reunion, maybe. I'm about 15 miles outside of Boston, in a town called Bedford, Mass. My wife and I have one daughter. She is not much of a stick and ball sport kid. She's 11, although she said that she might want to start playing hockey. I don't know if it's too late or not. I work for a regional sports network that is owned by the Boston Bruins and the Boston Red Sox. Do a lot of work with our college partners as well, especially the hockey league out here, which is cool. Up until the pandemic, I was playing once a week. But just out of an abundance of caution, trying not to get sick. My wife has a little bit of a compromised immune system. I haven't played really since March of last year, but I think once everybody's vaccinated, we'll get started again. I don't know, Jason, no one's really given that special memory of playing hockey in Minnesota. So I'll hold off. I'll save that for later when everyone's kind of into that mode. All
right. We'll push for that then. The masked man actually at a hockey game right now, Todd Dvorak.
Yeah.
Todd, tell us where you are and what you're up to.
I'm in St. Louis Park, and right now I'm at my son's hockey game. We're playing Chaska. I've got three kids, two boys. One's going to St. Thomas, who's a junior, and my senior boy here is playing hockey right now, and I've got a 14-year-old daughter who plays hockey and softball and tennis. So that's
fantastic.
Kind of the gamut here for me.
Can you, when you watch your own son play high school hockey, describe the kind of high school hockey fan you are now as a dad?
I just watch. not a yellow, not a screamer. I'm just a watcher.
Okay. Okay, good. We're going to get into superstitions as a player later. Do you have any superstitions as a dad?
I don't. There's nothing that, that I do is going to affect it. So I enjoy watching it. Fun to see and fun to watch them.
That's a great mindset to have.
Yeah.
Joining us from the Pacific Northwest is Doug Robertson. Doug.
Hey guys, good to see everybody. I'm in Bend, Oregon, which is Central Oregon. It's like 3 hours from Portland, about 4 hours from the ocean, high deserts. I haven't skated in probably a decade, unfortunately. But I've got a sophomore in high school. She's a dancer and orchestra kid. She plays viola, so. Yeah.
Fantastic. All right. We'll have to get you in skates soon, Doug.
Yeah. I've got a pair of skates. I just never use them.
What the heck? Okay. Back to the Twin Cities, Mark Sauter.
Hey, good evening, everybody. Jason, Marnie, thanks for hosting. I am still in the Twin Cities, living in Edina, so not very far at all from Hopkins. Been with General Mills the last 27 years, so put roots down, or kept the roots here. I've got two kids, two twin 10-year-olds that are both very active in hockey, which makes me very active in hockey. So the last time I've been in skates was a couple hours ago, helping coach both their teams. I have not played competitively though since probably a beer league the year after college, so I really don't skate myself other than bossing a bunch of 10-year-olds around the rink 5-6 times a week. Still, hockey's a big part of our family. I followed Mr. Delaney's advice and put a rink up in our backyard for the winter, so oftentimes our kids come home from practice and they'll go right out of the rink. So we spend a lot of time playing hockey, but nice to see everybody.
How much time a week would you estimate you're putting into rink maintenance these days, Mark?
It really depends on the weather, and I still remember, again, when I mentioned this, because I consulted with Pat a lot, because he had a rink for years before I finally did it, and some years are better than others. And when you get a lot of the freezing rain and then snow following it, it can take a lot of maintenance to get it skatable again. But usually shoveling, I only flood it maybe once a week at the most. So it's not too bad. It's fun. So
Mark, do you drink beer when you're flooding your rank?
Occasionally, yes. It's actually more of a prerequisite to drink beer while you flood your rink than it is when you grill. So yeah,
right.
It's done.
This is good.
Yeah.
We'll just go right from there to Pat Delaney. Maybe you're the rink authority in this group.
I am not really. I mean, I kind of fell into it. I live not far from Mark. I live in Edina, and we've been here for some time. I went to school in Colorado, and then my wife and I, my wife's from New Jersey, we moved back to the Twin Cities after we graduated, and we've got 4 kids. Our oldest is 23. She graduated from University of Missouri in Columbia about a year ago, and then I've got a son who is a senior at Montana State University, a daughter who is a sophomore at University of Minnesota, and then a son who is a junior in high school at Edina. So the rink thing just came out of both of our boys played hockey, and like Doug, our girls were both dancers, and I'll tell you, the dancing is frankly probably more involved than the hockey. It's nuts. But so we started doing a rink in the backyard, and we did it, I don't know, for maybe 6 years, and the boys were skating so much that they started to not use it that often, and it turned into an annual event. I hosted a boot hockey tournament so we'd end up with like 60 guys here and a couple kegs of beer, and we'd grill brats and hope nobody broke a leg or anything. And so as the kids stopped using it, we're using it less and less. I actually gifted the rink to Sauter, so now I get to listen to him make the complaints that I made trying to put it up. So, and skating wise, I coached my kids for a number of years and would run into some of the guys like Puchner, Eberhart. I think I ran into a couple of times, and my phone's wearing out of battery. But I haven't skated for probably 3 years. I haven't been on skates. So,
all right.
That's my drill.
Hey, Pat looks great for 58 years old.
Yeah, it was a problem failing, 6 grades in high school. So
yeah. You're like the only one I know that has kids graduated from college.
Yeah, we got started pretty early, so
they look good.
Nice.
Well,
So
that's why it's a little dark in here.
also, I know in this coaching gig, and maybe everybody is Rick Eberhart, who Pat just mentioned. Rick, where are you these days?
I'm out in Laconia. I got a 14-year-old son, plays badminton. First kid on the team. Lots of potential, though. Who happens to be absent right now, I'm not sure why. He lives in New Germany, so our kids actually go to Laconia together. In fact, Chico was out last year and came to a game. A lot of fun.
Nice.
Fantastic. Mark Pacheco, also in the Twin Cities. Yeah, what's up with you these days?
Yeah, no, good evening. Good to see you. Thank you both for hosting us. Yeah, no, I'm living here in the wonderful coastal town of Wilmington, North Carolina. I've been out east since, right after college, I guess. Let's see, I got a 17-year-old daughter who's a senior in high school, a 19-year-old stepdaughter who is a freshman in college. Oh gosh, I quit. I guess last time I was on skates was a year ago. I finally had to put them up for good. I had my second hip replacement this past January. It's been a year. So you're looking at the artificial man. I had the first left hip done at 43. Continued to play the beer leagues after that. As a matter of fact, I skated 6 months to the day after my first hip replacement. After the second one, I'm done. So I just too much risk involved at my age. And yes, that means you guys are old too. If you know someone who has hips,
Nobody's off the hook. Yeah. And certainly not least, Mark Madden. Mark, where are you these days?
Yeah. So, first of all, thank you, Marty and Jason, for putting this all together. I've watched some of them, and it made me realize just how few people I actually knew in our senior class. So
Same.
I'm glad to at least be on with a bunch of guys that are at least familiar in names and faces, because I was usually trailing behind all of them on the ice rink. But yeah, so I live in Virginia Beach, Virginia. Out here for about 4 years, been in Virginia itself for, I guess, 7 or 8. So I'm an active duty Army guy, been in for almost 30 years.
Wow.
Got no kids that played hockey. I got a son who played lacrosse at Orno, ironically. When we lived in Australia, he stayed back to try and maintain some level of normalcy in U.S. school systems versus Australia. And then I've got a daughter who has zero interest of ever playing a sport, as much as I've tried to get her into golf or tennis or anything. She just has, but she's very musical and enjoys plays and singing and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, so that's where I am. The only thing I would say about my memory of hockey, especially my senior year, is just sitting on the bench a lot, because I didn't get much of an opportunity to play with all the defensemen out there that I think were mostly junior and senior starters. So it made it a little hard for me to break into the group. But
that's great though. And that's I think that's a good segue. I am interested in, Eric and I talked a little bit about this leading up into the show, and high school hockey obviously is, I don't need to tell anybody here, is enormous in Minnesota. It's a totally special thing. You don't see it, it's comparable to basketball in Indiana, maybe football in Texas. Pat, I'll ask you this question. You went to college outside of the state right away. What do you what sort of pride do you take in just being a guy who put on the skates and skated around in Minnesota high school hockey?
Well, I mean, it was a big part of my life growing up, and all these guys that are on this call are guys that I played years and years of hockey with, and so going out to Colorado, I went to Colorado State University. They did not have a school program. They had a club program, and I decided I didn't want to spend that much time doing that. I played in a men's beer league deal, which was a riot. But Mark Sauter and I actually were roommates freshman year in college, and Mark, I may be not remembering this correctly, but we had guys on our floor that were two guys from Birmingham, Alabama, and a number of people from Illinois and Colorado, obviously. But they would talk about the state high school hockey tournament. And I think even one night we caught, Mark, did we not catch part of the high school hockey tournament? Somebody had some weird radio where you could pick up a game. Am I remembering that incorrectly?
And I definitely recall watching the Minnesota Harvard NCAA final in the dorms, but I don't remember high school. But
I thought there was some strange deal. But so, I'm sure all these other guys will, it was a big deal. It was a really fun, fun opportunity to, have the social and aspect and the team aspect, and we had it's a great group of guys. So we had a couple of really solid teams going through high school. It's fun.
Tony, out in LA, does anybody care at all about Minnesota State high school hockey?
I mean, a little bit. They kind of make fun of us in a way because hockey's gotten so much bigger in Los Angeles. So there's a lot of kids in the summer that will play in the adult leagues, and a lot of them brag how they were able to beat like Shattuck St. Mary, or a lot of these kids will end up playing at the NTDP up in Michigan, and they'll always say there's not a lot of Minnesota kids up there. So it's kind of a catty thing with some of the guys down here. But in the early days, like probably in the late 90s, early 2000s, I mean, when hockey wasn't as big in Los Angeles, a lot of people would talk about how monumental in the sense that they always said, well, your high school hockey looks like college hockey to us, which I thought was kind of cool. But nowadays, and I don't know if people really care, to be honest.
Yeah.
They love their hockey. They love their Kings. They love their Ducks. But, they don't really talk much about how their kids are going to Minnesota to play junior hockey. A lot of them like to brag about how they went to go play up in the NHL or the AHL or the Quebec Major Juniors. But you know, I think there's some people like myself who still gravitate towards the idea that, you know, I'm proud. I'm from Minnesota. I played high school hockey, and I don't know. I think it's a big deal to me.
Yeah. Rick Eberhart, when you are dealing with kids, either your own or kids who play on your teams, do you ever take a moment to sort of impress upon them how cool of an opportunity they're getting by playing hockey in Minnesota?
I'll answer that question in just a second. Puchner I texted him, and he will be calling in by giving the big guilt trip. So when he gets on, we can all give him some shit.
Great.
We'll just make him talk for like 20 minutes.
He's actually taking his kids to a hockey game, or practice something. So as far as your question, it's a great opportunity. I just got done skating outside. Been playing 3 nights a week on Tonka with a bunch of guys that some I've just met, some I've known for years. It's a great sport, right? You keep it's your partnerships, your friendships. You know, I look at the little boxes with all your faces, and I've got some great memories of like something that stands out. I remind some good, some bad that remind me of each one of you guys. So it's pretty cool. It's a great sport. I mean, it's a lifelong deal. You can play till you go to your grave, unless you have 2 hips replaced.
Right. Listen, guys, I want to report from the peanut gallery. We have 33 people watching.
That might be a record.
Yeah, Chuck Giastra wrote a comment which I share, which is, "This is sensory overload." Thank you, everyone. And Jenny Thompson Grossman has the first question, which Jason, ask when you're ready. Who was your favorite rival to play in high school?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I was going to ask, actually, what was in sort of, and we'll go around on this one, but a tweak of that question would be, who was the team that gave you guys the hardest time, that you thought you should have always been able to handle, but you could never quite shake them? Joe Van Sloan, do you have an answer to that?
You know, for me, I think it would be, you know, I think a lot of people would assume Edina, but I always liked going against Minnetonka, and maybe it was because we shared a rink with them. And it was, you know, we had to split ice at the old Minnetonka ice arena, but
yeah,
Minnetonka was my favorite rival.
Todd Dvorak?
You know, I think for a few years ago, I thought it was Wayzata.
Yes.
I think we knew a few of those guys, and they knew of us, you know, just kind of through the summer and stuff. Been to a few of their parties and whatnot. So I think there's some, even like in soccer, it was kind of Wayzata as well. So I'd say Wayzata would be mine.
Yeah.
Rick Marker, Wayzata was tough in their rink. Wayzata was really tough in their building. I think they blew us out both junior and senior year playing at Wayzata.
What about them was tough?
The best memory, Eric, I got to tell you about, the one memory I remember is warming up our junior year in Wayzata, and Greg Hatch and Doug Robertson collided during warm-ups and knocked Dougie out.
Yeah, I had a concussion.
I mean, I never heard anything hit so hard in my life.
Yeah, Hatch was a brick.
I remember that well.
Explain this.
Puchner got a bloody nose in the locker room that game too. I mean, that game just could not have gone any worse by the time we stepped out for the opening faceoff. It was just
injured before the game even started.
Yeah, it was a mess. It was a mess.
I had my bell rung pretty hard there.
Explain how this happened.
Oh, we were just warming up, and I wasn't looking where I was going, and he probably wasn't. I don't remember the exact situation, but we just ran into each other, and I think Hatch was a little bigger than me, and I think his shoulder hit my head and just rung my bell, and now they would have put me through concussion protocol, but my legs are all wobbly. I had probably 5 minutes where I don't remember it. He sat me on the bench.
Yeah. Larson just slapped you on the back and said, "Get back out there."
Yeah, exactly. He's like, "You'll be all right. You and Boyle got to kill penalties tonight." So, you know.
Pacheco, what do you remember about going into other arenas and other rinks? Were there tough rinks that you remember?
Yeah, I'm kind of with Joe on that one. I think Minnetonka for me, and I think really for us, Joe goes to sharing that rink with them.
Didn't you injure a guy in our senior year game against Minnetonka? You knocked one of their players out of the game.
I think that with Larson being, Dave Larson, our defensive coach, him being a teacher at Minnetonka as well. So I think that added, kind of another little flavor to it, I think. So for me, it was always them. I moved from Minnetonka at a young age, third-ish grade. So I played some early youth hockey there. So I knew a lot of those guys well, the Hanneses, the Playsteads. I know you guys remember these names. Farkas. So I knew a lot of those guys personally, had played with them when we were real young. So for me, that was it.
So Eric tied this up with me in an email, but the name I believe of the guy you injured it for. Okay, so first of all, from a fan perspective, this is all I'll add to this. We hated Minnetonka more than anybody. Nobody else really cared. It would have been nice to beat Edina because obviously they're the hated rival of everyone, but Minnetonka was the one that we really hated as fans and got up for those games. Joe Larson was the player at Minnetonka who I believe Mark injured. Yeah. And the story that I have about that is that Joe Larson's dad was a friend of my dad's. And
oh, really?
He talked a lot. The dad talked a lot about Joe Larson was going to go play at the U. Joe Larson was being looked at by Wisconsin, And Joe, after Joe got injured, his dad, Bob Larson, called my house and I answered the phone and he asked me if I knew you. Do you know Pacheco? And I go to the same school. And he said, he broke my kid's wrist. Talk to my dad.
Jason, did you say, yeah, I was at that game.
I think I confirmed
I saw that, Mr. Larson. Thanks.
Yeah.
It's one of those
hilarious.
unfortunate, it's a physical game. It was one of those unfortunate things that I guess can happen.
It just confirms though how heated that is. Again, hockey's different. It's just a little more.
Well, and Mark was dangerous. If Mark caught you with your head down, you were going to get hurt.
Yeah. And I guess that's one of the things that, I was having this conversation with my business partner the other day, who happens to be Canadian. And, so he comes from a strong hockey background. And one of the things that, a discussion we have as you're building teams, because you can see this, and it's what makes hockey different. And you see it with these guys here. All of these guys are my brothers. And in those days, and you're literally going to war. I mean, what other sport will guys play through such pain and such injury because they have to for the guy on the bench next to them? You take NHL, these guys are getting stitched up on the bench. They're back in there. That loyalty and that camaraderie exists in this game like no other game and at every level.
Come on, soccer.
But even like,
sorry for those of you that play soccer, but I'm not seeing any stitches on the sideline. That's for it.
But Sauter, didn't you come off the bench with a broken wrist and score a game like in the Owatonna tournament that won a game for us?
That is, I had a cast on and I had to tape a special glove on, and somebody got sick, and so I wasn't even supposed to play it. I remember the coach said, "You got to go." It was.
And then you scored the game winner, I believe, right?
Yeah, absolutely no skill involved. Dumb luck. I just swung at the puck and it went in, I think. But the one thing from a rink perspective that I recall, and I will absolutely say 100% Minnetonka was the hated rival, in my opinion. And Edina was the one team that we just could never get over the hump and beat. But in terms of rinks, I recall one point, I don't remember if it was junior varsity, whatever, but walking into an absolute madhouse in Hibbing, I think it was.
Oh my God.
And they had fans hanging all over the place, all over the glass.
Yeah. That arena was so cool.
And that was one of the first times I remember hearing as they came out skating to some heavy metal tune, which then was like, we got to have that. We got to do that. And one of the fond memories was arguing amongst the team, like, what song are we going to play when we come out to intimidate the other team? And
Do you
just,
remember how cold it was when we were getting off the bus up there?
Yeah.
It was so cold and we were like, do we have to go play hockey? I mean, it's like 2 degrees. So
Hey,
cold.
Mark, was that not also the rink where that corner was like almost like a solid concrete wall behind the boards and there was no give?
I don't know. I don't remember.
Or was that in Virginia?
Ever might remember that one,
That
I'm
probably was
guessing.
Virginia.
Yep, it was giving.
Yeah, wasn't that what? Didn't you break your knee up there?
I did.
All right.
Oh, I seem to
that's right.
remember Rick
Sophomore
Eberhart
year, right?
in a big brace walking around our school.
Yep, true story.
So it happened in that game at Hibbing, huh?
Hibbing, yeah. It's like a cement barrier behind, kind of like Richfield Ice Arena a little bit.
So that was the rink too, where you came out of the locker rooms were underneath the stands, and you ran upstairs onto the ice, and there were people hanging over the glass and go home city boy, and just, I mean, it was nuts, but it was fun.
Did you guys win that game?
Well, that was you broke your knee sophomore year, right?
Yeah,
Rick.
Sophomore,
no, I don't think.
Senior.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's fantastic. I mean, I was going to ask about visiting dressing rooms. When the hockey team traveled, you guys got all geared up at like Hopkins High School, right? And then piled on a bus and went somewhere. Was there another rink that had a really
geared up at the rink?
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Was there a place that was known for sort of being a bad dressing room, a bad situation when you went in there?
Blake Ice Arena.
Yeah, small and cold.
They all were back then, I think.
Yeah. No place particularly good. When it came to riding on that bus or getting ready to go to the game, who on the team was, I mean, what kind of tone did you guys set on the bus, and who was responsible for that? Were you sort of quiet and determined? Was there a lot of laughing, just chatter? Eric, you want to talk about that?
The only thing I remember is, as we were pulling into the rink, and this was something I remember Todd was telling me about when, Todd and Rick and Pat started playing on the varsity sophomore year, and, the rest of us were on JV. And I remember Todd telling me about how, they kind of do this hand clapping thing, right? As you were kind of pulling into the building to kind of signal to everybody, okay, we're ready to go. And that was something that we adopted, but it was funny. Sometimes you could feel on the bus, like, we're going to really play well today. Because just everybody really felt locked in, especially like the Minnetonka games. I always felt like, you got on the bus to Minnetonka, and obviously it was a short ride over there, but a lot of times people wouldn't even be talking, because everyone was just so ready to go and so geared up to play.
You know what I remember, Eric, on the way home, especially after wins, one of your habits would be you would try and lay out each member, throw a Chris Bermanism name on them. If you remember.
I don't remember
that.
Oh,
I just think you just go from one to the other, and you nail one and be pretty excited about it. I remember.
Guys on your team, on the Hopkins team, or on the other team?
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Good stuff. Small memory.
He's practicing for his future gig.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. Everything worked out.
Yeah. That's right.
Well, I want to know who wants to bring up the topic of us being the lab rats in Warner's room.
Oh God!
I know then what I know now.
All right, so we got to dial this back here a second. You guys are talking about the health teacher, right, Mr. Warner? Right?
Yeah.
Who was?
The
I think
visualization.
He declared himself the team psychologist.
No, that's right. We did visualization.
If you guys can all just shut your eyes. We're going to shut the lights off. Imagine your spleen.
I forgot about that.
I did too.
How can
you
hold
forget
on.
about Rick? What did he say? Imagine your spleen. What did he?
Yeah, it was all internal reward versus external reward. We're going to shut the lights off. You're going to feel your spleen drop into the floor. You're going to visualize the red light going on. It was bad.
And this was after an hour. This was. I mean, would we do it? What, 3 days a week, an hour after, for practice for an hour and plus, and then we'd go in and do that for an hour.
I seem to recall one event where we had ping pong balls cut in half. You were staring into the white fluorescent lights laying on the floor while he was talking to us.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right.
Without fail, though, within 30 seconds 3 minutes max, you would hear someone snoring.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Equal and
Oh, that
opposite
was me. I
reaction.
was one who fell asleep.
Equal and opposite reaction.
I just remember equal and opposite reaction, and if you hit the post, that's because you did something that was not good earlier in the week.
You didn't pick up the draft.
Yeah.
It
was very black and white looking back, right? Like that's not how life works, guys. Right?
It sounds to me like there wasn't a lot of buy-in on the team. Is that true at the time? Were you guys all pretty off?
We were too young and naive to like stand up. Had the biggest thing to this day is you'd see Minnetonka, which is my biggest rival, and if I come back to that question, I'll let you know. Minnetonka, right? They score a goal, they go ape wild. They're high-fiving, running down the bench. We score a goal. You need to go back to the face-off dot and get ready for the next drop of the puck. Had you guys known what you know now, we wouldn't have bought into that BS. Sorry.
Well, I'll tell you guys that you guys probably never knew about this. I was in the band. Werner would come in, so what do you do at a hockey game, right? When we score on the other team, what do the fans do? They chant Civ, Civ, Civ at the other goalie.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Werner would come in and go, no, we want their best. We want to know that our best is better than their best, and we beat their best. So we're going to just start cheering positively for our own guys. We're not going to.
Oh, man.
And we're like, what? Half the fun of going to a hockey game is chanting Civ at the other goalie. What are you talking about?
Oh yeah.
Sounds like he'd fit in better nowadays than 30 years ago.
Is that Madden? Tell us about this. What was your take on the whole Werner experience?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think Rick said it best. You're young at that point, so when you're being fed that stuff, you're probably laughing internally so you don't get in trouble or thinking, what is going on here? But so I have a little unique perspective because I actually left Hopkins after I think it was our Pee Wee A season. And I had that picture actually, and I was looking at it a while ago because we moved, and of course now I can't find it. I was going to pop it up, but and I went to Bloomington Jefferson. So while I played there, what I would say is, and I don't remember who just said it, but Edina is by far the most hated rival everywhere in the in the Twin Cities area, right? Bloomington Jefferson, it was their it was our biggest rival when we were there and stuff. But from a Hopkins perspective, it's definitely Minnetonka because you do know a lot of those guys, and like Mark said, having Coach Larson, him teaching there added a little extra. And I don't remember Larson. I think he tried to downplay that a lot, but I don't remember it. I don't think we beat them recently, but for whatever reason, we always seem to get killed by Wayzata.
Yeah.
So that was always frustrating from that perspective because
I believe that would have been all of our last games.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that right?
Well, Edina beat us too. So.
Right.
Did you guys lose to Wayzata in like a sectional or something in a playoff game?
We lost 2-0 at the Met Center.
It was 2-0. Yeah.
Well, Marnie's been monitoring the Facebook group. Marnie, do you have any questions from that crowd?
Oh, yes, I do. I'm going to kick it right to Patty Hegry Walters.
Hold on.
Eggs.
She is here, a special correspondent from the Peanut Gallery. And one of her questions is, does anyone still lace up their skates?
We sort of covered that in the intro. Many do, some do not.
Is that what that means? I don't even know.
Just skate.
I was asking if people are still playing.
Okay, sorry, thanks. Okay.
Or is she asking if we're so old we have to use skate tighteners?
Yeah, maybe.
There you go.
It could be the old.
Just get the old Lang buckle skates.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know she was talking about some tech. Okay, I'm blushing. Okay, Tisa Michelle Kopstein has a question which you did not answer, which is, what was the song you ended up choosing to skate out to? Is this relevant, Jason?
Very relevant, yes.
Okay,
because I think there's some, I think I remember this, but Marker, do you have a memory of this?
Of the song?
Yes.
No, I was kind of oblivious. Goalies are strange. I was oblivious to surroundings. Like I was tunnel visioned all the time. But kind of going back, I do remember some Van Halen at some point.
I thought we landed on AC/DC and Guns N' Roses.
Back in
I
Black.
do remember AC/DC too.
AC/DC Back in Black.
Yes. But
it was the sticks hitting at the beginning, right when we come out.
That was great.
It's a pretty good start. I remember Back in Black too. Joe Van Sloan, are you on this? AC/DC?
I'm in agreement with the AC/DC Back in Black.
And we could only play when we played Minnetonka. We could only play it when we were the home. We couldn't play it when we were the visitor. And when we played it, I still remember their student section were just riding us hard about being headbangers and. I can still remember it.
That seems very Minnetonka.
And I loved
to
it,
me.
every second of it.
Again, another flip side of that from being in the band. And most of the hockey games I went to, I just went as a fan, but I did play at a few games. And the way it's supposed to go, right, is you're supposed to hit the ice to the school fight song. And I recall being informed that the team didn't want that anymore. They wanted to come out to AC/DC, and the band director, we didn't care. The band director was fairly irked by that.
Yeah, I think that was their junior year. I think some of the seniors said, "Well, we're going to tell the band that we don't want them to play."
Right.
Our apologies.
Not at all. Totally appropriate.
Hey, who brought the octopus? Who brought the octopus to the games and would throw it on the ice on occasion?
Oh yeah, you mean in the NHL, Detroit?
No. I thought we had
it happened a couple times at ours.
Yeah, I think it had happened a couple times with us as well.
It was Chico's girlfriend.
What did you say?
You're referring to the actual octopus, not the thrower, right?
Right.
Okay.
I do recall there being, and I don't remember the specifics, but I do recall there being people who, were shut down at the door at MIA for bringing in various things that they had intended to throw on the ice, and that being sort of a controversy at the time. Maybe people can weigh in on that on Facebook. I don't remember the specifics, but
Patty's chiming in again. She writes, the fish, the bagels, the Trojans.
Why is that?
Anyone remember these things?
Did she mean Trojans, Wyzetta?
Probably not.
Probably not.
A fair guess.
All right, so one of the topics that's come up, and I know this happened in our discussions with Tony and Doug, you guys all played, or many of you played Bantams for a coach named Rogie Swenson, and achieved a certain level of success that you did not achieve once you played in high school. Tony, do you want to talk about this? You've had some strong opinions on this.
I mean, if I look back, we had two great seasons in Bantams. It was, I think it was like 83, 84 when we had Coach Cullen. And we went to the state tournament that year, and we actually beat Minnetonka twice. We actually beat Wyzetta in the region final to go to state. And that team was, we had a great team that year. And then the following year, Rogie Swenson took over. And although we had a great record and we went all the way to the region final against Wyzetta, we lost pretty much to the same group of guys, minus a few players. And Wyzetta ended up going to the state tournament that Bantam year. But I mean, my best memories of Hopkins High School actually kind of fall within those 2 years in the Bantam with Coach Cullen and Rogie Swenson for me. But those are my opinions, but I'd like to hear what you guys thought about those years with Rogie and Coach Cullen. So
I'll jump in on this. The Rogie was was a great coach, and so was Mr. Cullen. And in those 2 years, the A team and the B team, that second year Bantams, I think, Rogie, first year Bantams, I think the B team almost went undefeated for the season. and then Rogie took over the A team after, because Brad Collin was on the A team that first year. Mr. Collin coached it, and then Rogie took over the A team. And I think, was our Chicago trip, was that Bantams, you guys, or Peewees with so we had this deal where we all went to Chicago, and we stayed kind of hosted, families hosted players, and we would go and stay with, we stayed with the family, and we played we played in this tournament in Chicago. And I got the pleasure of riding from Minneapolis to Chicago with Rogie and I think his girlfriend. And that was a serious experience. So they're great guys. One of the, which I think of, and I thought of a lot when I was coaching, one practice, it was on Halloween, and we were out there, everybody was kind of, wasn't that excited about practicing on Halloween night. And Alan Pearson came out on the ice and had a witch's hat taped to the top of his helmet. Do you guys remember this?
I do.
And we're just warming up. I mean, skating circles are on the ice, and Rogie was just so incensed that Pearson had defaced his helmet with the witch's hat that he took a slap shot from one end of the rink all the way down to the other and knocked the witch's hat right off of Pearson's helmet. I mean, it could have killed him. It could have hit him right in the neck. So he was the greatest coach.
Todd, what do you remember about Rogie, and why was he a good coach?
You know what? I would say, looking back, he was probably like the worst coach of like hockey skills and sense. But what he did do was he was able to make us so pissed off at him at times that we would work, extra hard to win the game, or, just to make sure that, we got his approval. But my biggest thing that I remember about Rogie was, one, buying chewing tobacco for a few of the players, and then two, walking across the ice to the bench with brown footprints leaving behind, because he would spit on the locker room floor and wipe it in his shoes, and then walk across the ice and have little brown tube stained footprints right behind him. But no, he was I think he taught us how to be grown up and to work hard. But yeah, he's a good guy, good coach.
I think the biggest thing that I remember and reminded me when I moved south, first coach required you to call him sir, coach or sir. Yeah. Everything ended in yes, sir. So I think his big thing was discipline. As Todd said, I don't think he was probably the world's greatest coach, but he could motivate.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fitness wasn't an issue with that team. Well, the other thing too is I think and a lot of guys have alluded to this. You went, you just got mentally tough playing for Rogie, right? So when stuff happened during games, you never shrunk from the moment, right? I mean, Tony, you mentioned that big run we had to the regional finals in Bantam A's. My memory serves me right. Todd had like broken his arm in the first game, I think, against, I want to guess it was Osseo. The tournament was the regional tournament was at St. Louis Park. So we lose, pretty much our best player, yet we still rip off like 4 wins in a row and win our way into the regional tournament, because we had, I think Wayzata had been seeded in and we had to win our way in. So, with Rogie, you were just kind of ready for anything, and you could kind of deal with anything. But yeah, I remember all we did in practice, it was like 3-on-2s, 2-on. We never practiced the power play. We never practiced penalty killing. But, I think all that extra work, certainly helped with skill development, and, ultimately coaching's about results, right? And we won a lot.
Yeah. And we had a short bench that year as well. I mean, like the last I think the last 2 months, we only had like 10 players because we had so many injuries. But I just remember Rogie was just kind of riding us a little hard. But, you know, we wanted to win. We wanted to play for him, and we went pretty far. It was kind of weird because I think that year we were rated 3rd in the state. And it went to our heads, unfortunately, because I think we got killed at the Albert Lee tournament or something like that in Burnsville or whatever. But
you know, I got a couple of Rogie things. So I've recently, this is going to resonate with a lot of the guys, but I was recently talking to Rogie, and one of the burning questions that I had was, why did you make us say yes sir, no sir for everything? And Rogie kind of thinks for a minute, and he goes, you know, there was a guy that I used to work with. He was in construction. There was a guy that he used to work with that was one of the superiors at work at his construction job. And the guy used to ask his people, you know, would you please call me sir when you're addressing me? And the guy was a former military. And Rogie thought that that was cool. It meant nothing. And so he started making us do that because he thought it sounded cool at work. But he goes, that's all I can tell you. There was nothing behind it. I was never in the military. I was never, you know, grown up that way. But one of the other things that Rogie really was bummed out about after all these years, and he specifically said, I felt like I rode Alan Pearson too hard.
Yeah.
And after Alan died, Rogie was very upset by that. And I said, listen, you needed to ride Alan because Alan was going to always, you know, the opposite end of you. You guys were always going to butt. And if you let Alan do what he wanted to do, you weren't going to be able to do what you did. And we weren't going to be able to follow you. So everything worked out great. And you don't have to harbor those ill wills all these years. And I think that made him feel better. But one of the things that I still carry from my Rogie days is going back to that Wyzetta game. We were winning 2-1 in one of these Wyzetta games, and I got a penalty in goal. And I look over at the bench, and Rogie takes off that corduroy hat that he had that said Breckenridge on it, and he throws it as far as he can on the ice. He was so mad at me. Thank God they didn't score on my penalty, because Rogie said to me, if they score, you're never playing again. And so I still, to this day, when I'm playing in a game, I always think about not getting penalties.
Eberhart, we've been talking about Rogie, but I don't think anyone has brought up your actual high school coach, Mr. Weber. Can you talk about maybe the difference between Rogie and Weber, and what kind of a coach was Weber in high school?
Night and day.
Really?
Yeah.
We have to go there.
Well, anybody can take this, but you're kind of sitting back, so I'm pulling you in.
Hey, Rogie was a motivator, right? I remember puking. He skated us hard one day. I puked literally in front of the locker room number 2. Everybody had to step over the puke to get in the locker room. I don't know
I remember that.
And he's like, just don't F and breathe on me. He was giving us Weber, you know, totally different guy. You know, all you guys have coached before, right? At some level. You're all passionate about the game. Same with Weber. You know, he was passionate, but he was completely clueless, right? Larson knew twice as much as what Weber knew. There's just a lot of dead ends when it came to Weber. He just didn't have it. And I know he was passionate. He tried. Would you rather have Weber or Rogie as a coach long-term? I would rather have Rogie. Today, the USA Hockey would hang him out to dry. He would never again, but
yeah.
I did recently, and maybe you guys know Larson, Dave Larson, more than what I know. But he's going through some stuff, and I don't even know, maybe he passed away. I don't know. But he's got dementia and some other stuff going on.
Yeah, he's down in Florida. You know, my brother Leaf is very good friends with Dave. And it's I mean, I don't know if you talk to Dave or someone else, but I know it's been really hard on Dave, like to the point where like Lars doesn't recognize Dave anymore. I think the only person he only recognizes his wife. That's it.
Yep.
You know, and that's I mean, think about that, to, you know, be our age and your dad doesn't know what you look like. That's, you know, that's got to be hard.
Well, the thing to remember about Mike Larson, and I don't remember if he was if he was on an Olympic team, but he was on a USA hockey team in a World Games or something like that. I remember I grew up with Dave, and in his basement, he had some team photos up, and that was pretty cool. And Mike Larson could not have been a more laid back, reserved, dad, around the neighborhood. But yeah, that's a cool thing to have in the locker room with somebody with that kind of experience.
I'm going to jump in just for a second on Coach Weber. I thought, as Rick said, he had a lot of passion for the game, and I think he took a very broad look at a group of young high school guys, and with his the psychology and all the stuff that he kind of tried to pull in. I think he had all the right intentions for everybody.
For sure.
And I always appreciate it and look back at it and appreciate, the effort and time that he put in. And I run into him every once in a while in town, and just couldn't be a nicer guy. He and his wife, Jerry and Jerry Weber. So,
whoa.
He was good to us. So
absolutely. Hey, I ran into he was actually Lars and Weber were at Maynard's, and one wife was there. I'm not sure which wife, but I was there with my son having lunch, and I saw him. I'm like, oh my God. So I went over, said hello to my son, and Lars scooted over and put blanket on him, and we had I'm gonna start crying. It was cool.
Yeah, that's great. That's great.
Okay, one of the things that we sort of missed out on in this conversation so far is the fact that people are known on hockey teams for being an enforcer, maybe being a little dirty. Eric, you mentioned this about Pacheco earlier. I want to know who was
not dirty, the enforcer.
Who was known as sort of a dirty player, and who was how much trash talking went on when you guys were in hockey, and who on the team was good at it. Joe, you're sort of sitting there quietly. Do you want to weigh in on this?
Well, no. I don't. My memories go well. Cheeks, I've got some different memories of our days in juniors with you and Eber. So that time was a little bit more interesting than high school, because you got away with a little bit more in juniors. But I guess I couldn't really call anybody else out for being cheap or trash talking. Was enforcer's different than being cheap. So if you're gonna get hit hard, I'd probably put Chico at one of the top for that.
I don't recall us really, in our year having much of anybody that played dirty. Now I do recall Hatch. I remember being, he liked to use a stick a little bit. I remember that from, 87, Greg.
Right.
But otherwise, I don't recall anyone.
Mark, you were the physical one, but I got Haugen used to torpedo guys like no one else.
Oh, yeah.
I remember.
He had the
greatest hip check.
Haugen could throw a hip check.
It wasn't even that. Sometimes I felt like it was a football tackle. You would just get low and lower than that guy. And I remember you doing that to I forget his name. I think it was Matt Hench's for Edina. He was like 6'7". And
well, I got John McCoy once. I don't know if any of you guys have seen the show that I did with Jason earlier, but I got John McCoy, who had broken Doug's.
I thought it was Hankinson that broke my collarbone.
No, I don't think it was.
Was McCoy?
I think so. Only because I remember that you and I kind of talking about it after the game. But McCoy was a big guy too. McCoy was a big kid.
Yeah, I recall. I don't know who it was. I was on the ice with you, and I recall. I guess we were defending in front of our bench at the Minnetonka rink. I was on the far side of the benches, and it was just inside our blue line. And Haugen lays a hip into a guy. The guy was maybe, I don't know, 2 foot off the boards. I mean, it wasn't just he went down. The guy literally flipped over Eric, landed on his head. It was a thing of beauty.
But I mean, I wasn't that big. I only weighed like 155 pounds in high school, so I really didn't want to take anybody on head on. I was like, if I'm going to knock them over, I gotta go low. You know, I wasn't. I mean, you know, I couldn't bench like 320 like you could, Mark. So I figured, you know, I'll cut them off at the knees, and I never got tripping penalties or anything like that. So that was.
That's your answer, Mr. Joyce.
Well, one of my favorite things about Eric's game. One of my favorite things about Eric's game was when the puck was loose and there was sort of a scrum in front of our net. Haugen was the guy who would knock the goal off the standards to stop play. That's a good play. Yeah,
he's the smart one.
He was the smart one.
Smart one.
They changed the rules in the game,
right?
Because Eric was famous for making a hand pass in our zone to get a whistle and get a line change.
Oh, really?
The reason that rule changed. He's the only one smart enough to do
it. Were there so that this reminds me of the superstitions question too, because so Eric and I were friends in high school, so we used to watch Eric and see the funny superstitious things that Eric would do, like never go into the bench through the gate,
which was
slam
stupid.
The gate, and climb.
Why would you not go through the gate and save your legs? It's funny, like now, why would you not go through the gate? Why would you climb the boards? Especially when we only played 4 defensemen senior year, so you were going out every 45. You know, why would you? I hate to think how much wear and tear I added to my legs just by doing that.
Does anybody else have any superstitions that they remember about themselves or about other guys on the team?
No, that Crow was always interesting. You know, I would. Did anybody reach out to Jason? I would have been aghast to get him on this, but
we tried.
I mean, we'd be in warm-ups, and Jason we had really good goalies. I mean, Marker and Crow. And Crow, I think at one point, I think it was our senior year, was, you know, one of the top-ranked goalies in the state for most of the, you know, almost the entire season. But you'd go through warm-ups, and every once in a while, he just was like staring off somewhere else, and not, you know, he was a real gamer. So you know, you can always count on him during, you know, as the game hit. But every once in a while, no warm-ups, you go, oh my God, man, I don't know. But he is, you know, Kraut made, you know, was one of the guys that made everything fun. You know, he's always had a great outlook and on things. So,
you know, when I did my show with Marty and Jason, we talked about Crow, and they really tried to pull some, you know, bad feelings out of me against Jason.
It didn't take that much.
You can't not like Jason. Jason's screwing around all the time. He's making you laugh. You just look over at him and you laugh because he's doing something stupid. And he was such a great he was a great teammate. We had, as goalies, Jason and I spent a lot of the practices together, either pushing nets or, you know, skating back and forth or trying to, you know, catch each other in a race around the rink. But Jason was so fun to play with forever. We played, you know, ever since Pee-wees. He was just he was a joy. He really was.
You did express a little bit of irritation that you thought you took the game extremely seriously. And here was this guy who you thought was a little, and we're learning this, right? Not only are goalies weird, but Crow was a weird goalie.
Well, that's true. I matured as I got older and was a little less intense in goal. And Crow was always having fun. And I think I took that into my adulthood hockey. And, you know, but Crow was great. He was really, really good.
I believe you guys will have to tell me if this is an urban myth or not, but I knew Crow a little bit from growing up, and believe it, many people don't believe this or they don't remember it, but Crow was in Boy Scouts. And we used to go up north to camp together, and Crow, you know, smelled worse than anyone, but he was a great guy to have around. But the rumor was that Warner and Weber had instituted some sort of a no tolerance policy. They wanted all the guys on the hockey team to sign a waiver saying that they had not smoked pot or
No drugs
gotten
or
into
alcohol.
trouble.
That's true.
And the rumor was that when Crow was brought in, his response was, I spent the summer on tour with the Grateful Dead. So do what you need to do, but I'm not signing anything. Is there truth to that rumor?
I wouldn't doubt that.
Potentially, yeah.
I don't remember hearing that one at all.
Okay.
But I don't know. Yeah,
I
he
think
was
I did
an
have
Eagle
to
Scout.
Yeah, I don't know about.
Didn't he get busted by Weber, or didn't Weber suspend him for a little bit?
I don't think
I don't think so.
No.
Paul Carlson, I know, pushed back. Paul, who was a year ahead of us. I think Paul pushed back pretty hard especially on Werner. I remember Paul telling me about a conversation he had with Werner where, Paul wasn't having any of it.
Well,
and Paul was also a free spirit, certainly.
Yeah.
Hey, since Ricky's on the call with us and Jason's not here, should we vote for our favorite goalie?
Yeah.
Marker. Bart Goodrich.
Rick
Goodrich.
Somebody other than Marker explain to me why and in what ways goalies are weird.
Well, you got to like to have a puck shot at you 70 miles an hour. So
yeah,
there's that.
Besides the smell.
Yeah. Okay. That was the other thing I was going to get into. Famously, hockey known as the worst smelling locker room.
Jason,
and pads, right? Like, so when you guys got home with your pads and stuff, how much of a struggle was that with your mom or your parents to deal with that thing? And who was not good at it and who had the worst smelling stuff on the team?
Ricky Marker. Ask my mom.
That's true.
She used to pick her up and practice together and windows down the entire way home.
You know what it was? Back in the day, we had those leather gloves and they just stunk after a while. So it's on your hands.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we'll go with that, Rick.
I'm going full on Pacheco. Pacheco had, I think, wore the same shirt underneath his equipment.
Right.
And I think, after a couple of weeks of the season, that thing would stand up on its own. I mean,
you'd hang it
was
hang it in the locker room. Let it dry out.
There's zero chance that shirt had sleeves.
Oh, it did not have sleeves.
That was my one superstition, is I wouldn't change shirts.
Yeah.
So this is, you plead guilty to this. You wore the same t-shirt all season. It was in your bag and it just.
Yeah, maybe it would make a good run till a loss before it got cleaned.
Do you have that shirt on right now? Is that
totally?
Marnie, do we have any other questions coming in from Facebook?
Not right now. We have lots of great to see you. We love you. Thank you so much. And everyone's really having a great time.
It's fun. I urge you guys all to go into the Facebook group after we're done here and check out what everybody has to say. It's kind of fun when they tune in and chime in. Do any of you have anything that you wanted to remember, you wanted to bring up, remember things that you remembered about playing hockey, things that you know about some of these guys, some of you guys played together after high school, questions for each other, anything that anybody wanted to bring up that we haven't gotten to yet?
I think we need to mention Ronnie, don't we? And our bus driver. Who was the bus driver that took us around?
Ronnie was a manager.
Yeah. Ronnie was the manager.
Oh, yeah.
And TC.
Yeah, Ron Hermanson, right? And Tom Carey.
Ron Hermanson and Tom Carey.
Yeah, Tom lived in the neighborhood.
I ran into Tom at Braemar like 20 years after high school, and I was up watching Hopkins play Dyna. And he actually asked if I would come into the locker room to give the Hopkins kids a pep talk. And I said, there is no way that the coach is going to want a former, third line, run-of-the-mill, average middle-aged man coming into a high school boys locker room. So I
Tommy Carey is still around Hopkins.
Oh, yeah.
He still hangs out at Hopkins High School and stuff and goes to their games.
Nice.
Yeah.
I should mention that Pete Fisher was going to join us tonight. Pete is having a rough time of it. And so anybody have any memories about Fish? I know I want to give Fish a shout out and say Pete, we're all thinking about you, man, and we hope you're doing okay. And keep on doing it, man. It's tough. Anybody got anything to share about Pete?
He was in high school. I thought he was Mr. Hustle, right? He was always going
fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the fastest guys on the team for sure.
Yep.
I think, and I don't know if Pete broke his wrist playing soccer with, I know, and so Pete started our senior year playing, I don't know how many games he played, but he played the first, I don't know, third of the season in a cast, which, looking back on it was
Eric Haugen.
Super impressive.
What's he talking about?
Hey, Dvorak, put it on mute. Or say hello to your wife.
My wife, Amy. Say hello.
I do remember when you guys went to state as Bantams, and Fish and I were like desk buddies in science class or whatever. And he showed up, you guys all got your heads shaved, and he showed up with his head shaved.
Oh, yeah.
And I could not stop laughing at the guy. He looked like a baby bird.
That was not a good look.
For a lot of us, yeah.
Do you remember that? That was a team thing, right? That was like, we're all getting our heads shaved if we go.
Oh, yeah. Not everybody.
Not everybody.
Yeah.
I wasn't good enough, so I didn't feel like I needed to get my head shaved. So
please.
You were still in Bloomington in 9th grade, weren't you, Mark?
No, you did that in high school too, because that's actually how I met and became really good friends with Chris Stone. Because I was walking into a marketing class or something one day, and he's like, "Madden, you gonna shave your head?" And I was like, "Are you freaking crazy?" But I don't remember. Pat, was that you who started that, or who started that whole?
I don't know. I cut my hair short a couple of times, and Mark, Sauter and I did. Haugen, you shaved your head.
There was a bit of a year before, and the year before, there's always seems like there was a few that would do it. And when you're a senior,
Eberhart was too much of he was too into his hair. He wouldn't shave it.
Because you guys called him slick.
Mark, I got a question. You have this aversion. I guess we're gonna have to question your career choice with this aversion to that haircut.
So it was just, it's the right time and place, right? Okay. And just for the record, military people should never be asking someone to call him Sir Rick. So question that guy, because that's you hear it enough during your day job, it gets a little old. You certainly don't want people doing it at outside of that, but maybe that's just my opinion.
That's great.
Mark, thank you for your service, by the way.
Yes, thank you very much,
absolutely.
Sir.
For sure.
I wanted to get to a couple of you guys. We're running out of time here, but I want to get to the fact that a few of you guys played hockey after high school. Todd played at Eau Claire. Can you, Todd, did you play for Mike Eves at Eau Claire?
No, I did not.
Tell us about your experience at Eau Claire. How was that?
It was fun. A lot of fun. Yeah, it's a lot like high school, but now you can drink in front of people. Don't have to hide it so much, but it was good. It was a fun time.
So that was in the WEAC, the Wisconsin Intercollegiate Athletic Conference.
Yeah, we played like the Minnesota teams like St. John's, St. Thomas, Bemidji and stuff like that before they were, and Mankato before they were Division I teams. So
yeah.
Todd, were you an All-American? Were you a Division III All-American? Did I see that somewhere at some point?
I like a second team. I think I was.
Oh, that's all? That's great.
Yeah. So
that's outstanding. And then a few of you guys played juniors together, and Eric helped me with this stat today because it's a great stat line. Eberhart's got a stat line with the St. Paul Fighting Saints with I think, was it 3 games, but 6 penalty minutes? Is that right?
7, because I don't know if, obviously we didn't fight in high school, but I'm not sure if anybody's ever been in a hockey fight. I mean, I played a year of mediocre JV in college and tried to get in a fight, and no one would ever go with me. But with 7 penalty minutes, you must have, did you fight somebody when you played in that league?
So I'll give you the nickel tour real quick.
Okay.
The league started up. I went and tried out. I made the Bismarck team with Farkas, who Chico knows. I lived with Farkas for the last 3 years playing juniors in Seattle. Now we're going to try out for the semi-pro deal. So we go to Bismarck, middle of effing nowhere. we make the team. Neither one of us want to play in Bismarck. So our coach here in town, in Minneapolis that we played juniors for, had a connection with the St. Paul Saints. We went and tried out for the Saints. We made the team. And the light heavyweight, so our first game was against Bismarck, which the light heavyweight champion of the world at that time was from Bismarck. So I'm on the opening face-off playing D. The crowd's going crazy. They're playing fight highlights. Puck drops. Puck goes to the boards near the penalty box. I pinch, hold it. I get the shit beat out of me by a Canadian. And it's the first time a big guy jumps in and saves me. It's the first time I've ever called my mom and said, I want to come home.
Oh my God.
I had a welt all over my head. Yeah. So yeah, I had some penalty minutes, but it wasn't because it was self-induced.
Hey, Rick, do you remember in college when you played with me at the University of Minnesota? Remember we played in the fraternity league?
Yeah.
You got thrown out for fighting.
Yes, I've been in a few fights.
Because a lot of the fraternity guys that we were playing against were like Minnetonka, Wayzata guys. And I brought Rick in, and he started fighting like right away. And now we're college guys, so you're like semi-mature. Rick just starts beating the shit out of these guys, and they threw him out of the league. He couldn't play anymore.
Rick, from what I hear in your through mutual friends, you still kind of have that little bit on the rinks you still play today.
Short wick, very very short.
Is that right? Joe, you were talking about how you could get away with a few more things in juniors. Talk about that juniors experience. What's that game like?
Well, I hadn't skated since I think the last game that we played in high school, which was at the Met Center at the time. And then Rick decided that we were going to go to try out for a junior B expansion team that was coached by Ken Bader, I think, which his brother was what, a 60 Olympiad or 70? I can't remember which, one of those years. And in any case, we decided we were going to, hit the pasta heavy beforehand and vomited on the bench after, not having skated for 6 months or whatever time frame it was. And we ended up making the team, and I think our first game we traveled to Waterloo as a scrimmage. So we were a junior B team, they were a junior A team, and I think we were beating them after 2 periods.
Yep.
And then I think their coach basically told them to come out and crush us. So that I don't think we ever finished that game, did we?
Oh, we did.
I think it turned into a melee, and we never finished the game, but it was a fun team. We had a lot of fun. You showed up in the locker room, you threw your bag in the middle, and you couldn't get dressed until you knew where the party was afterwards or who had the beer.
Mark, you played on that team too, didn't you?
Yep,
I did.
Cheeks was on there.
We had a lot of fun that year.
We invented the gap year, I think, didn't we?
Something like that. Don't tell me I'm out of shape. Round is a shape.
Yeah.
Hey, I was in Pennsylvania, and Dvorak happened to be playing it was the Erie Panthers, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the night you guys got your ass kicked and the coach went ballistic, and I happened to come see that game. It was fun. Todd was good. I watched the game. It was a great game, and he's a good player. Still is a great player.
After you, Rick.
Any of you guys ever go into reffing at all?
No.
So real quick, I was amazed. So when I was in Kansas City, first of all, going back to one of your original questions, how is Minnesota hockey perceived, right? Mm-hmm. And I was officiating and coaching in Kansas City, and in one of the A-League teams, the refs always had in the summertime, we had a team, and they're like, "Oh, you're from Minnesota, you can't play." So it was interesting to see, kind of the down looking of that. And then when I played with them, as not being a guy that played a lot on the high school team, they were like, "Oh, you're actually pretty decent." But more importantly, it was interesting for me as an official to realize how little about hockey I actually knew until you start going through the courses. And I was like, I've played my whole life from probably mites on up and never knew probably 3/4 of the rules, but you think you know it all, right? Right. It's kind of interesting from that.
That's fantastic. So Eric, I know, has interacted with hockey at a different level than playing because of your job. carrying games. And so while a lot of people have played hockey at levels beyond high school, Eric is the only guy in the room here with a Stanley Cup ring. You want to show that off?
Oh God, we're gonna go there.
Yes.
I'll see you over there.
Well, as you know, our company is owned 20% by the Bruins, 80% by the Red Sox. So when the Bruins won the Stanley Cup, you know, part of our function as a company is the money we make helps fund the teams, right? And player acquisitions and stuff like that. It's more so with the Red Sox, candidly. But anyway, when the Bruins won the Stanley Cup, the owner, Mr. Jacobs, was nice enough to buy every single person at Nesson a Stanley Cup ring. It's not the blinged out version that the players receive, but
that's awesome.
Wow.
You know, let's see.
Awesome.
It's, what do we got here? It's even got my name on it.
2011.
So, 2011, yeah, which was, you know, it was a good year. It was my first year up here, my first full year with Nesson. So, you know,
they beat the Canucks that year, didn't they?
They did in 7 games. Yeah.
Nice.
So I've never worn it other than the day I got it. Cause you know, there are people actually, believe it or not, there were people at work who were wearing their rings like for the weeks after. I said, guys, come on.
You got to bring it to the reunion.
We had that. No way. I am not doing that.
I was just going to say, you like once every 3 months, you go out to the bars.
No.
You put that on, you go out to the bars and just sort of hang out.
Wear that to the high school reunion.
No, that would be Thule.
That's
I know I can be annoying sometimes and was annoying as a teammate, but that would take the cake, probably bringing out a Stanley Cup ring at a high school reunion. That would take the cake.
To be fair, in an email before the show, Eric said we should ask everybody on the team who the most annoying player was. I think it was me.
Most annoying teammate.
Open season on Haugen right now. Is he accurate in that? Was he the most annoying guy on the team?
I remember one time we were at the Minnetonka Ice Arena about to go out on the rink, and I hit Eric in the shin pads, and I said, "Hey, Eric, let's go." And he looks at me and he goes, "Fuck you." I'm like, "Oh, dude, we're on the same team." He was so intense. Fuck you.
Other tales of intensity on the team. We got to wrap this up.
But there was also the lame attempts at humor, right? I mean, I was funny about 2/3 of the time I tried.
You told dad jokes before you were a dad.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
You know, but I think it's funny. That's, you know, you talk about Rogie. I think I bought into Rogie's intensity thing as much as anybody, and
you were very good at it.
Sometimes it was a little much. Let's just say.
Well, you guys, this has been a blast, and it was great seeing everybody. And I hope you guys enjoyed dredging up some of the past and talking about hockey. One final time around, if anybody has anything that they wanted to bring up that we didn't get to.
Todd, what's the score of the St. Louis Park Chaska game?
Not good. 5-1 bad guys.
Oh,
yeah.
Is Dave Snugger the coach at Chaska?
He is. He is still the high school coach. Yep.
Wow. Maybe Hopkins, you know, not, apologies to Dvorak, but Snuggerud might be the most famous Hopkins hockey player, right?
For sure.
Oh, sure. By far.
Yeah. Travis Boyd now.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, true. He's out there.
It's still playing.
Fortunately or unfortunately, Hopkins has become a basketball school. So the hockey team remains at about the same.
What a reversal that's been.
Right. Yes. Yes, true. I went to a lot of basketball games at Hopkins. I did not pay attention to much of it. Again, guys, thank you very much.
Thanks,
Jason. Thank you. Thanks, Marnie.
Thanks, Marnie.
Great to see all you guys.
Good to see you, boys.
Thank you, guys.
See everybody.
Good luck to everybody.
Good to see you.
Wait.
Marnie.
Next week,
Yeah, what's up?
Oh, yeah.
we switch gears again. We bring Mel Jacobson, our beloved art teacher, on the show with Doug Robertson and Chris Bjork. I'm not going to go through the whole lineup. You have also inspired me to organize the Dance Line show since we survived our first
Nice.
Tune in for that.
Yes.
Many theme shows to come.
Yes, there have been some talk about you guys were on the football team too, so we thank you. This will be on YouTube, and it was really an honor. And you guys look great and sound great.
That's right. Google
Thank you very much for doing
KHOP88.
it.
Good to
Google
see you.
KHOP88 for the archives, and take care, everybody. See you soon.
Thanks, everyone. Good seeing you guys.
Thank you, guys.
Everybody.
Take care.